All right, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. I see y'all in the chat here. It's so exciting. I didn't realize that you could actually see the chat coming in before the live stream actually starts. So right before I hit go live, I was like, oh my gosh, people are already here. It's good to see everyone. Yes, please go ahead, put in the chat where you're from, where you're tuning in from. That's always really fun to see. I'm currently in Frisco, Texas. So I'd love to hear where y'all are tuning in from. Awesome. It's so good to see you all. I see someone from Georgia, Northern California, Wisconsin, Canada, Indiana, France. And there's Janet and Irving, not too far from me. And there's Annette. Hello. So good to see you all. And yes, there's Jacqueline from Arizona. Very cool. And Diana's in the Netherlands. So good to see you all. Well, I'm going to give people a few minutes just to join. I don't want to dive in too quickly. But yeah, please keep putting in the chat where everyone's from. It's always so nice to see. This is my first live stream going solo. Christy-Lyn and I did a live stream together a few years ago. So I kind of know how it works, but this is also like a very different format than I'm used to. I'm used to like seeing your faces actually on the screen and interacting with your voices. So yeah, this will be fun. There's Lori in New Mexico, Janine in Florida. Oh, Dragon is from Serbia. Very cool. And then Sylvia's in Germany. We've got Austria. And Elizabeth's in Chapel Hill. So good to see you too, Paulette. This is like a fun reunion of students I haven't heard from in a while. This is great. There's Kathy in Massachusetts. Awesome. Well, for this live stream, you might already kind of have an idea of what this is going to be about, but I'm going to be sharing my go-to songs for creating beautiful background music at events and gatherings. So you may have seen in our Learning the Harp Facebook group, I made a post a few weeks ago just letting you know that I was going to do this live stream and asking like what questions y'all would want me to answer, like what questions you have about playing background music. So I'm going to go through some of those. I've got a few other talking points that I thought might be helpful to share. And I'm also going to be playing through some of my go-to favorites that I like to play at events. Like no matter what type of event it is, these are like some of my go-to pieces that are always in my binder. So I'm going to be playing on my pedal harp, but a lot of these arrangements can be played on lever harp. I just wanted to, since I'm kind of explaining my process and sharing the music I like to play for events, I figured I might as well do it on the harp that I typically play on for these types of events. But yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm just taking a look in the chat again. Awesome. Okay, well, I think I'll just start off. I'm going to start off by playing the song that I always start playing at events. This is always like my very first one. It's one that I learned at this point. It's probably been like at least 10 years. It's called Celestial by Voltz. And by the way, all the arrangements that I'm going to be playing from are listed in the description of this video. So if you ever have a question about like, oh, who arranged that? I'll try to remember to announce that like before I play it. But if you want to look it up on your own, maybe it's a song you want to learn, you can find it in the description. But yeah, so the first one I'm going to play is called Celestial by Voltz. I love his arrangements. They just feel, they're so beautiful to play and they feel really comfortable under the fingers. And it's a really beautiful piece that just kind of helps warm up my fingers. And since I've been playing it for a long time, I think that it just kind of helps me settle into that new environment I may be playing in at whatever event I'm at. So I'm going to start off with that. All right, so that's one of my favorites. Okay. As I was playing, I was like, this actually feels a little scarier than when I'm actually playing at events. I think when I am playing background music, I'm kind of aware that no one's really paying attention to me. I'm just kind of helping create a beautiful atmosphere that allows people to like mingle and have fun. But with a live stream, I'm like, oh man, there are a lot of eyes on me right now. So this is good question or good practice. We're going to get to some of your questions. I'm just looking in the chat here. Yeah, so I see some questions about the sheet music. I think if you go to somewhere like the Virginia Harp Center, if you search like Frank Voltz music, it should come up. And I see a question, is this arrangement for lever harp? I'm pretty sure you could play it on lever harp. Are there any pedal changes now that I'm thinking about it? There are not. So you could absolutely play this on lever harp. So a lot of the arrangements I'm playing today can be played on lever harp. Yeah, Diana says, we're all with you with full attention. Yes, that makes me feel great. No, but it is fun. Great. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat here. I see someone who's named Come Follow Him. You're wondering what brand is my pedal harp. So this is a Lion & Healy electroacoustic harp. So it kind of serves as like almost like an electric guitar if I want it to be. So I can like plug it into amplifiers and fun pedals that you might see guitarists using, which comes in handy when I'm playing for events, because if I'm playing in like a setting that's larger or it's really loud with people talking or even playing outdoors I can just easily plug in my harp to an amplifier sound system and the sound comes through really clearly. But we can talk more about that. I saw that there was a question that came in about like my setup for events, so we'll certainly get to that. Okay. So let me go ahead and dive into one of the questions that was submitted. And the first one is from Carla. She was wondering, how do you handle key changes between songs? For example, I have lined my pieces up so that I have everything at the beginning starting in E flat, and then I'll change the key so that I only have to put up a minimum number of levers and then keep going. But then that becomes monotonous sounding. Yeah, so you're wondering, like, how do you handle the key changes between songs? Because it would, of course, be easiest to kind of group all your songs together that don't have any levers needed. And then maybe if you have some pieces that require like all your F sharps, maybe you would do those in a group. So it's really up to you. Since I'm playing on a pedal harp, it's a lot... I feel like I can get by without spending a lot of time changing the key. Like I just kind of do it with my feet. So it might be quicker than putting up levers. But when you're playing on a lever harp, it's really up to you. I think your process of grouping them together, so you just have to put up like one lever at a time between songs, I think that's a great idea. If you're wanting like to create more of a seamless atmosphere, even if it might sound a little monotonous sounding, sometimes that's actually really nice in order to not like disrupt the flow of the music if you're playing background music somewhere. So if all the pieces are sounding similar in the same key, I think that's okay. But you also may decide that you want to add more excitement by mixing up the pieces in different keys. So maybe you start out with a piece that has no levers needed, and then the next song you just need like your F sharps and C sharps, so you can put those up and then just kind of go from there. So it's really up to you and what you're comfortable with, I think. And I think it can take some experimentation. But I also want to say, I think it's okay to take some time to set your levers, both when you're playing background music and when you're doing a solo performance. I think I used to feel really pressured to rush to like get my harp in the right key, that I would actually end up like forgetting levers, or if I'm on a pedal harp, I would like miss one of my pedals and then I start playing and realize something's not right. So I think it's a lot better to just take your time. Even if it feels like an eternity to you, it's probably not. People, if you're doing background music, no one's even going to notice. So I used to play with a harp ensemble when I was younger, where we all played lever harps. And I remember when we would play in public, like our director was very intentional on like giving us time to change our levers, because she knew if she rushed us with that, someone was going to forget a lever and then it would cause more problems. So yeah, I just think it's always better to just take your time with it. And that can kind of ease some of the pressure if you do want to add a little bit more variation between the pieces that you're playing, if you don't like that they're sounding kind of similar and monotonous. So that was a very long-winded answer, but I hope that just gives you some ideas. Yeah, okay, let me look at the chat here. Let's see. I see some people saying, I love Frank Voltz. Yeah, he's got really lovely arrangements. And I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the questions I see in the chat here. There's one from Mary. She says, when playing background music, how do you manage people coming up to the harp and staring at you while you play? And she says, yes, it has happened. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have never seen a harp before, let alone heard it or really realized what they were hearing, you know? So that's gonna, I think, yeah, there's a good chance that'll happen when you're playing in public. And I think it just takes some getting used to. Even me, like doing this live stream right now, I'm like, this feels weird. It actually feels a little scarier than playing for people in person. So I think the more that you do it and put yourself in those situations, that can help. And this is actually something we cover in our performance program that we just started this past week. But maybe what you could do, if you find that that really makes you nervous, is kind of practice that at home. Like maybe have like a close friend or a family member, you know, at least sit in the room that you're playing in, and maybe every so often they can just kind of like turn around and watch you play, just to kind of like give you practice of like having some eyes on you. And then when it happens in public, like it's not so, you just get more comfortable with that feeling. But I think if you just try your best to just embrace it and just kind of focus on the music itself and like what you want people to feel with your music, kind of taking the focus off of yourself and that self-conscious feeling that I'm very familiar with. Yeah, I think that can help. Yeah, people love watching the harp, watching us play. Okay. And yes, Kim, so this live stream will be available on our YouTube channel once this wraps up. So you can rewatch it again, or if you have to leave early, you can always go back and watch it. And then someone's wondering, what are the other two harps that are behind me? So this larger one, that's a music maker's ballad harp that I typically play in Learning the Harp videos. And then this is a harpsichord, or full sickle, technically. It has all the levers on it. Okay, I'm just scrolling through to see more questions. And if you're just joining us, please put in the chat where you're tuning in from. Jacqueline says, you're helping me clean. I love that. I hope this can be like a peaceful part of your day. Just hear some nice harp music and have a fun discussion like this. And Janet's wondering what level this piece called that I just played would be. I would say, I'm thinking probably like late, or that's a confusing way to say it. I would say mid-intermediate. It's probably around that level. But a really, really lovely one to add to your song list if you liked it. Okay, and then Kathy's wondering, where is the best site to find sheet music for harp? Can you use sheet music for piano for the harp? So on our Learn the Harp website, we have a ton of harp arrangements. So naturally, I'm going to definitely recommend Learning the Harp, because we arrange all our pieces with students in mind. Like we're helping you learn like good technique while you get to learn these beautiful pieces. So I would check out our website. And you're wondering if you can use sheet music for piano and play that on the harp. I would advise against it. I don't know what level you're playing at, Kathy, but I think sometimes piano music, since it's not designed to be played on the harp, like piano players use their pinky when they play and harp players don't. So there's going to be some notes that are really tricky at times to play just because the fingering and the technique as a whole is different. That doesn't mean there aren't piano arrangements that can work on the harp, but it might take leaving out some notes or tweaking the fingering to make them work. Okay. Paula says, sitting on the porch on a beautiful fall Michigan day, leaves are falling. I just picked 34 pounds of spy apples. Oh, that sounds amazing. Well, we are nowhere near fall in Texas. I mean, I guess the temperatures are dropping a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean like the high is, oh, okay. The high is only 86 today. I feel like last week it was probably like a high of 90. So we're moving in that direction, but it's still very hot here. So I'm very jealous, Paula, that you get such a beautiful fall day. Okay, let me go to the next piece I have on my list. And this one some of you might be familiar with. It's called Sally Gardens, and this is one of our Learning the Harp arrangements. And this is one that I really enjoy playing at gigs. When I was younger, I learned a similar tune. It wasn't called Sally Gardens. I think it had a different name, but it was the same tune, and I just absolutely loved it. So I really like our Learn the Harp version as well. So I'm going to play it. Also, I haven't seen any comments about like the sound not being great. So I'm assuming everything is working properly, but let me know if the sound glitches out or anything. Oh, Paulette says this is the tune that is the reason I started learning the harp. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's a really, really pretty one. right. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that feedback that the sound is coming through nicely. Great. Oh, I'm glad you guys like that one. It's so cute. My cat Murph, she's a fluffy black cat, but I have this desk that's currently like in front of my harp, and I found this woven box at a thrift store like for $2. I took it home, cleaned it, and it's Murph's absolute favorite place in our house. Like she's She's laying in it almost like in a bathtub. Like she has her head on the side and she's just fast asleep, and it's just adorable to see. I would show you, but I don't want to like mess with my setup right now, but it's adorable. Yeah, so this is one of those pieces. I think there was a question submitted in the Facebook group. Let me go to that actually. Where did I see that? I can't find it, but it was a question about like, how do you lengthen a song? And we actually, if you're a Harp group member, we actually have an entire skills video on this of like ideas of how to, if you end up repeating the song, like how to make it sound a little bit different so it doesn't sound so repetitive. And this is one of those songs that I think you can play like, I don't know, I would even go to play like a third verse. I did it twice when I just played it, but I feel like you could play it again. Maybe try playing it up the octave the second time around. I guess that'd be pretty high, but. Just to add a little bit of variation to it, just changing the octave that you play it in is like a simple way to do that. And then another thing you could do is maybe like removing some of the left-hand notes so it sounds a little bit more open, or maybe just making a chord out of the left-hand notes. So instead of, you could go. So you're just kind of changing the left hand a little bit. But yeah, I think you can get creative on some ways to add some variation as you're repeating it. And I see Lynette's question. She says, do you have recommendations for what to do between songs? Like pausing for a few seconds, play an interlude. If an interlude, is there a class for this or on YouTube? So like in between songs, honestly, I don't do anything. I just, I do pause for a few seconds just to kind of like turn my page to the next song and move my pedals so they're in the right key. If you're playing on a lever harp, just taking that time to move your levers. But an interlude could be nice, especially, you know, if you're playing by memory and you don't want there to be like any gap in the music. I think that's a great idea. I don't typically do that, but you could maybe just do like some simple arpeggios on the harp. And just keep it really, really simple. That could be nice. I think arpeggios always sound really beautiful and they sound harder than they are sometimes. So yeah, that could be nice. Or if you wanted to try improvising, I don't know if you've ever tried that, Lynette. Maybe that's a little too complex for what you're going for right now, but it doesn't have to be complicated. We have like an entire workshop on improvising, but you could just kind of tinker around the strings a little bit as you're just kind of transitioning into the next piece, and that could create like a really neat transition. So that would be my suggestion, but maybe someone else in the chat has an idea as well. Oh, Sylvia says, bravo, I played along. That makes me so happy. if y'all know these pieces, by all means, that'd be so cool if you were playing along. In Heart Music for Soul, she says, my dog loves it. If I play on my Ogden, she lies quite near to the harp sleeping. That's so cute. I'm actually pleasantly surprised with Murph right now because I haven't figured out if she actually likes the sound of the harp. I'm convinced. I think she likes the sound of my pedal harp. I wonder if my lever harps are maybe like to her ears, which I know animal ears are more sensitive. Maybe it's just a little bit shrill to her, but as I'm playing my lever harp, she'll kind of like wince and like whimper a little bit, but she's fast asleep right now. So maybe she's just a pedal harp kitty. I don't know. Denise says, I've just started to improvise using the arpeggios as a bass. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a great starting point. You can always kind of build on it from there. Just looking through the chat here. Let's see. Well, let me go to another question that was asked on my Facebook post. So Laura Bunch, I don't know if she's with us today, but she asked a question, do you know or have songs that are easier to play but sound more difficult than they really are? And if so, what are they? Yes. So this is something you'll hear Christy-Lyn and I say, like when we talk about doing background music, like the majority of my music that I'm playing is like below my skill level of like music I would be learning to challenge myself and kind of like improve my skills. So like the pieces I'm playing today, like I've sprinkled in some more challenging ones. But like this late beginner version of Sally Gardens, that is one that like doesn't require a whole lot of practice and preparation for me to take to an event where I'm playing background music. And so I try to find pieces like that sound beautiful, but don't require as much preparation. And then I will sprinkle in some pieces that are a little bit more challenging, and I can kind of decide in the moment if I actually want to do those challenging songs or if I just want to skip them and go to an easier one. And you may be in a place where you're wondering or you're thinking like, oh man, my pieces aren't complex enough. Like I haven't been playing long enough to go out and play. You may feel like you're too much of a beginner, and I just don't want you to underestimate the power of simple music. Like we just wrapped up one of our Harp Beginnings programs. And like those pieces you learn in that program can be played and they will be beautiful and like so well received by whoever you play them for. Like sometimes the simplest pieces are going to resonate the most with an audience. I can, some of the pieces that are in my binder right now, like are pieces that I learned years ago. And I'm beyond the level of those pieces now, but I still play them because they don't require as much preparation and I can just easily pull them out. And they sound really, really beautiful. And I enjoy playing them. So Laura was wondering like, what pieces do you suggest for this? And this is maybe going to depend like on your level. But Celestial, like that very first one I played, I wouldn't say that's like the easiest one to play. I've just been playing it for a very long time. So to me, it's one that doesn't require a ton of preparation. And then, yeah, Sally Gardens from Learning the Harp. I think that's a really great one. And then one of my favorites, it's called Angel's Hymn by Rhett Barnwell. And if you recently joined the live stream, I've listed out like all the pieces I'm choosing from in this live stream. They're in the description along with the composer or arranger. So that way you can easily find them online. So Angel's Hymn, which I'm going to play in just a moment. Our Learning the Harp arrangement of Moon River is really beautiful. And, a lot of people know that tune and they just get really excited to hear it on the harp. There's another one called Eventide by Kappus that I just love playing. So that's just kind of a handful of ones that I always have in my binder when I'm playing background music. So I hope that gives you some ideas. So let me go ahead and play another one. Okay. One thing I've noticed, I recently got contacts. This is my first time ever wearing contacts. I usually, I have trouble seeing distance, and that's kind of translating into my music a little bit. So I decided to get contacts, so my eyes are still adjusting. So if you see me going like this, my eyes are like refocusing. So I'm almost hesitant to play some of these because I don't know. I should just go for it. If I make a mistake, y'all are a very forgiving audience. This will be good practice to get used to playing with contacts. But give me some grace if this doesn't go well. So let me actually tell you what I'm playing. I'll get to the ones I mentioned in just a second, but there's one called the Bach Prelude in C major, which is a classical piece that a lot of people would recognize, and it just fits for a wide variety of events. I just kind of like to sprinkle it in alongside like more contemporary pieces that people enjoy hearing, as well as like the more instrumental ambient, like harp arrangements that people wouldn't know because they're just harp songs. But this one, people typically recognize. It just sounds lovely. All right, I made it through all those mini accidentals. All right, and this is a piece, I wasn't playing the Learning of the Harp arrangement, but we do have a version on our website that is for lover harp if you wanted to learn it. So if you like that one, you should check out our arrangement of it. Okay, I'm just looking in the chat here. Mary says, Angel's Hymn was one of the first songs I ever learned, even though it is a bit advanced. My harp teacher, bless her, encouraged me to do it anyway, and I've loved it ever since. Ooh, yes. I'll play that one next. You guys know which one we're talking about. But yeah, that's a really special song, and it fits so many different settings that you might play it in, like whether it's at church or like someone's memorial service or like a birthday celebration. Like, it's just a really meaningful piece, I think. Okay. Yeah, so someone's wondering about the difficulty levels. Since not all of these are learning the harp arrangements, there isn't like a specific level indicated for them. So I hesitate to kind of say the level for each one because I think our Learning the Harp standard isn't like the standard for all music. But I can give you an idea at least. Like the one I just played would probably be, I would say, mid-intermediate by our Learning the Harp standards. So yeah, that's a really nice one. Mary says, my next piece to learn. Yeah, that's a wonderful one. Okay, well, let me look at another question that was submitted. And then I'll get to Angel's Hymn. We'll do that one next. So another question that Laura asked, she was wondering, do you pick more contemporary or more recognizable songs rather than pieces that are beautiful but that the audience might not know? And she also asked, like, does it matter what the event is and how far in the background your music is? For example, at a restaurant versus an event where people are coming and going, not really paying close attention to the music, but can still appreciate that it's there. Yeah, so starting with the first part of that question, do you pick more contemporary or more recognizable songs rather than pieces that are beautiful, but the audience might not know? I know I kind of mentioned this a little bit already, but I try to do a mix. And it really depends on the setting, the event, and like who's listening to you play. But I tend to do a mix because I think in general, like people just enjoy hearing songs that they're familiar with. But there are songs like Angel's Hymn that I'm about to play and Celestial, that first piece I played. Those are songs that people wouldn't know, but they work perfectly for background music because they're just nice to listen to and really encourage people to like mingle with each other and help set the tone for an event. So I would say if you're ever invited to play somewhere or you asked to play somewhere and you're unsure of what type of music would be fitting, like maybe you're going to play in your local church or for like a friend's birthday party or I don't know, somewhere around town, maybe like a coffee shop or something. I think just asking whoever is hosting the event, like what their expectation is, like what kind of things they would like to hear, what they think their guests would want to hear. That way you don't have to wonder, like, I hope this music is a good fit. You can kind of go in more confident and like just be on the same page. Like I recently played for a baby shower and I played a lot of the pieces I'm playing today, but with some others mixed in, like more baby shower themed, like You Are My Sunshine and Brahms Lullaby, just sweet pieces that are fitting for that type of event. But I also played some more like pop songs that I knew that group of women would like enjoy hearing, along with some more like ambient, like harp specific songs. So I think if you can have a variety, that's great. But also like maybe you don't have a lot of songs in your song list right now, and that's totally fine. I think just presenting options to whoever is hosting the event can be really helpful too, just so they kind of know what you're working with. But yeah, I always think it's nice to do a mix if you can, unless they're like specifically asking like, we want all classical songs or like all rock songs, which would be interesting on the harp. But in general, I think people, they just want to hear beautiful harp music, and typically we'll leave that up to you of what you want to play. Okay, well, let me go ahead and play Angel's Hymn. And yeah, Raquel, I see your question. Will you list the songs you're playing somewhere? So those are all in the description of this video, along with the arrangers. If you want to ever look up the sheet music, we've included that in the description, which should be like just under this video. Okay, well, let me go ahead and play Angel's Hymn. It was written by Rhett Barnwell. He's a harpist, and this is a really lovely one. So this is another one of those pieces that it's on the shorter side, and I typically like to repeat it at least once. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll take it down the octave. So. And just repeat it that way. Just to add a little variation to it. And I found that works well. And you can always jump back up the octave, maybe on the second page, like whenever it feels right. But yeah, I thought that might be a good example of like a shorter song that you want to extend a little bit to fill up more time. Sometimes just playing it in a different octave can be a nice touch. Okay. Yeah, so that was called Angel's Hymn. I see Paula asking, like, what was the one just played? That was called Angel's Hymn by Rhett Barnwell. Okay. And let me find another question that was submitted. So Chrissy asked, how about if the audience requests a piece or a song you don't know or don't have, like, how do you handle that? So I actually had this happen to me for at least as much as I can remember. I think this was the first time I had someone ask me this a few months ago. I had a little girl come up to me. She was like 5 or 6, like very young. And she asked if I could play a certain pop song that I was like shocked that she knew what that pop song was to begin with. But it was really cute. And I wanted to look up the chords for it. Like, she's like, do you know such and such song? And I was like, no, but I might be able to play it. But I ended up not having internet service in that venue. So like it didn't happen, but that might happen. Yeah. Someone might be like, oh, can you play like Stairway to Heaven? I feel like that's a common one people always want to hear on the harp. And I don't know that one on the harp actually. So it happens where, yeah. If that does happen to you, I would just say something like, I don't know, like, that's such a great request. Thanks for sharing it with me. I don't have that one in my song list today, but here's something else that I think you'll enjoy. Or like, I'll have to add that to my song list in the future. So maybe just kind of like replacing it with a song that you do have that you're like, I think you'll really like this one, can be a nice way to kind of shift it off if you don't know that piece. Yeah, that's a good question. You never know what people are going to ask. And Chrissy also asked, she said, do you play a piece repeatedly so it seems longer, or do you play as many pieces as you can in the time allotted? Yeah, so I touched on a little bit like what I do to repeat pieces and add some variation. And typically I try to bring enough music so that I don't have to repeat things a ton of times. Like, for example, if I'm playing background music for like 2 hours, I might bring like at least an hour's worth of music and then just go in knowing that I'll probably end up playing everything twice. And what you can do just to kind of plan ahead of time is maybe try timing the songs that you have on your song list and just write, if you've got the sheet music for them, just write a little note on the sheet music. That way, when you're choosing songs for future events, you have that reference of like, okay, I know this will be 2 minutes long. This one will be 4 minutes. That'll help you kind of plan out just your set list and the length of time that you need to fill up. But it's also okay if, 2 hours is a long time to play a different piece or play every piece once. So it's also fine to repeat things. So if you don't have a lot of music in your repertoire, it's totally fine. Like, and you need to repeat it more than twice, that's also fine too. You could even use some of the exercises we have that aren't like official pieces, like Clouds Are Parting or Rolling on the Waves, where we help you practice like 3-finger arpeggios and chords. Like, those can be treated as a piece. They sound beautiful. You can just kind of play that a few times and it sounds really lovely and creates a nice atmosphere. And then just kind of getting creative with the pieces that you do have, and as you're repeating them, finding different ways to play them, like playing them in a different octave, or I don't know, adding in a glissando, just something to add a little bit of a difference to it. Let's see. Elizabeth Blaylock said, Stairway to Heaven, really? Yes, that's like, oh my gosh, the amount of times I've been asked that. People really want to hear that one on the harp. Oh, Denise says, I was asked for happy birthday. So maybe that's one that's good to have in your back pocket, just so you can pull that out if you need to. Yeah, that would be a nice classic one just to maybe have in your binder when the opportunity arises. And then Cindy's saying, Carrie, I hope that you girls will offer this song. I'm assuming you mean Angel's Hymn on our website so we can learn it. So it's tricky with other songs that are composed by other harpists because they own that music, compared to a song that's like in the public domain, where we have the rights to arrange it ourselves and like publish it and everything. It gets a little tricky when it's other harpists because Rhett Barnwell is still alive. So I don't know that he would want us teaching a full course on it. But we hear you on that. We'll try to maybe find some other songs that are similar to do. And Cheryl's wondering, do you ever have people ask to play your harp, and how do you handle that? I've heard if you're playing where there are children, have a small play harp for them to touch. Yeah, that could be a nice idea. Maybe bringing along a harp if you have one that like you don't mind people touching. I think that's a great idea. I don't usually do that, but I definitely do have people like ask to touch the harp. And it is nice when they ask. Occasionally people will walk by and just pluck a string and away they go. And it's like, well, okay, that just happened. But I do think there's a nice way to handle that. I think someone asked this question in a workshop we gave a few weeks ago for our performance program. Like, what do you do if people want to touch your harp? And I do think there is a polite way to be like, oh, please don't touch that. Like, it's a really expensive instrument, and just kind of move on from there. And that usually gives people the impression, to not do it again. Or, this harp is like the price of a car. Just something so they get the picture. I typically don't mind having people play my harp, especially when they ask, especially when it's little kids. Like, you never know future harpists that you're inspiring, right? I had a little girl, probably like 3 or 4, come up and want to play it, and got to show her, like, guide her hand on doing a little glissando and plucking some of the bass strings. So it can be like a really cool experience, especially for little kids, because that could be the first time they're ever seeing or hearing a harp. So I think it's up to you, like what you're comfortable with. If you want people if you don't mind people touching your harp, then make a fun like learning opportunity out of it. But it's also okay to set boundaries, because these are expensive instruments that we love a lot. So let's see. Oh, Kim says, really enjoying this format and hope you'll continue to do more live streams. I'm so glad. Yeah, maybe we'll continue doing these. And Alan's wondering, is it good to know a lot of church hymns for background music? I think it depends. It depends like what kind of events you want to play for. Like if you're playing for religious settings, then yeah, I think that would be a great idea to have some that you can pull out when those opportunities arise. And if you enjoy playing those types of pieces, absolutely. So I would say go for it if that's the kind of music that you want to play. Again, like many people would recognize hymns, and so would be really enjoyable to hear on the harp. So I think they work beautifully as background music. Let's see. Okay, let me look at another question. So Chrissy's other question from the Facebook group, she was wondering, I'm interested in how you set up your stage or space before every performance. Like what equipment do you use? Setting up a microphone, recorders, amplifiers, camera. Do you have someone to help you, or do you go alone? When I'm doing background music, I keep it pretty simple. Some events don't require any amplification of the harp if it's like a smaller space or gathering. So I just show up with my harp, my bench, and my music stand, and that's kind of like my little plot of land that I'm taking up at the venue. For larger venues where the harp isn't heard as well, or if I'm playing outside, my harp does have little outputs, almost like a electric guitar that you can plug in an amplifier really easily. It would be the same thing if you had like a pickup installed on your harp. You could plug in your harp using the pickup into an amplifier and do that. Or if the venue, it's nice when they have sound systems that are usually pretty nice. That way, like the sound is projected really clearly. And usually if they have that, they'll often have like a crew of sound engineers who can kind of help you with that. But yeah, so I typically just ask beforehand because I don't want to have to drag along my amp if I don't have to. So it's just nice to know if that's something I need to bring, as well as like the cables that go with it and everything. In terms of recording your harp, because I think that could be a great idea if you want to like have footage of you playing. You could set up like a little tripod, as long as it be appropriate in that setting. You could set up a tripod to like have your phone on it and record. If you wanted just the audio recorded, I actually, another musician was just telling me about this microphone called Audigo that you can set. It's like this big. It's really small, but you can set it on the floor, like in front of your harp, and apparently it records the audio really well. Maybe I'll just put the name in the chats if any of you are curious. Audigo. I'm pretty sure that's how you spell it. So yeah, I think it's up to you, but like I said, I usually just keep it pretty simple. And if my harp is in a space where it's not going to be heard as well, I'll just make sure I have everything ironed out to amplify it. Okay. And I'm just looking at the chat again. So Annette's wondering, like, do you make copies from the music book and put into one notebook for the event? I do. Yeah, I like having everything in a binder like this. I should really get a new binder. It's like falling apart. Yeah, I find that if I don't know, it just gets a little disorganized if I'm bringing like 5 different books with me to a gig. So I prefer to make copies of the music and just put them in the order that I want to play them and just flip the page to go on to the next piece. I know some people also use an iPad or a tablet, which just really makes it easy to have all your music in one place. So I do that occasionally. But I also feel like I'm always scared my iPad is gonna like die on me or something. I don't know. Technology just scares me sometimes. So if I do play from my iPad using one of those softwares that like host, you can organize all your music in it, I'll always have like a binder of backup music in my car in case something happens. I'm sure the likelihood of that is small if you make sure it's charged and ready to go beforehand. But yes, I do prefer a binder. Okay. I love the conversation going on in the chat here. And I'm sorry if I don't get to all the questions. Y'all are all asking really great questions, but I know our time is a little limited here. Let's see. Priscilla's wondering, what kind of amp do you use? Oh, what is it called? I think it's called the Fishman. What is it? The Fishman like Mini Box Pro or something like that. For some reason, it's not really coming to mind for me, but it's one that you can actually charge and then you can go wireless whenever you're at a gig in case there are like no outlets by where you're playing. That doesn't sound right, but it's definitely Fishman. That's the brand. And I think it's like the Mini Box or something. Sorry, I can't remember the exact name of it. Yeah, Denise says, I'm nervous about iPad. I know. But some people, that's like all they use. Like I have friends who gig full time. They play Harp for events full time. And it makes it really easy you can create set lists on those apps and kind of organize your music that way. You don't have to worry about bringing a big bulky binder with you. But there are pros and cons to both methods. And Marilyn was wondering, do you have clothing guidelines for various settings or wear black no matter what? Yeah, so this is another thing that I'll ask the event planners about, just to be sure. I think when in doubt, if you don't get an answer, I don't know, I've always just kind of reverted to wearing black. I feel like that's just like a safe color that doesn't like clash with anything. But yeah, you can ask, like for that baby shower I played for recently. I just asked them ahead of time because I figured they would want like pastels and, just like sweet colors. And sure enough, they said, yeah, just like some light green, just something pastel colored. So I think asking is always the best method. If you're the one hosting your performance, like maybe you're just, inviting people over to play, obviously it's up to you, but I'm sure you're talking about like maybe playing at church or various settings around your community. Just playing in something that's going to be comfortable for you, even down to like what shoes you're wearing, just making sure that everything is going to be comfortable and not hinder your playing at all. And yeah, I think color wise, if they don't have a preference, then, wear whatever you want, but yeah, black usually is a safe option. Sorry, that was a very spitball, all over the place answer. Hi, Sonda. Glad you could join us. Let's see. Just looking through the chat here. Oh, yes, Deb put in the chat, Fishman Mini Loud Box. That's what it is. Thank you, Deb. Yeah, for those wondering what kind of amp I have, that is the one. And I've been pretty happy with it. Okay, and Lynette's wondering, is it possible to have another live chat to cover the rest of the songs and additional questions? Oh, that's so sweet. We don't have another live stream plan. I'll play through a few more songs. I know we're technically in our allotted time, but I don't mind going a little bit longer. And maybe y'all can tell me, like, is there a specific one in the description that you're wanting to hear? Otherwise, I can just kind of choose one of my favorites. But I will say we are running our performance breakthrough program right now that covers a lot of what I'm talking about. And we kind of go in depth with like handling performance anxiety and things like that. So enrollment isn't open for that anymore, but just in the future, like if you want to really deep dive into like performing in general, I think that program would be a really great option for you. And also if you do have more questions, I think posting them in a Facebook group, or if you're on our website, like posting them in the feed as well, we can certainly give you feedback there. All right, so I see Kelly suggesting Moon River or Hallelujah, Eventide. Okay, I'm going to do Hallelujah because that's one of my favorites. Selfishly, I'm going to go with that one. Let's see if I can find it in my binder. Here we go. Yeah, so we have several levels of this. I'm playing the mid-intermediate learning the harp version, but there's also a late beginner level that's just as beautiful. So if you like what you hear, you should check it out. This is a great one to play that people are very familiar with when you play it in public. All right. That is one of my favorites. I think it just fits so nicely into the fingers, and I love like this lower range of the harp where most of this song is played, and yeah, it's a good one. But glad y'all enjoyed that too. Aw, Cindy says, I got your talk by accident and this definitely cheered me up. I'm so glad. Thanks for hanging out with us. All right. Okay, I see some other suggestions in the chat. I see some people talking about their iPad. Yeah, G. Kitson. I think that's Jillian, right? No way I'd use an iPad. If it's more complicated than a pencil, I'm done. Listen, I understand. Sometimes, technology can be more complicated than it needs to be. But if you're willing to kind of figure it out, I do think it can be worth it. But I also understand. Sometimes paper is just easier. Keeps life simple. Okay. Well, I'll do maybe like 2 more. I think I'm going to do Eventide by Kappus because that's a really lovely one that I think y'all would enjoy learning. I want you to hear what it sounds like. I think it was towards the beginning of my binder. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so this is Eventide. I feel like my hair is doing weird things back there. Okay. That's another one that I would probably play through at least twice at an event, just to lengthen it because it's so beautiful and I want to extend it. But yeah, that's a really lovely one. I think it's just so calming and nice on the harp. Great. Are there any questions that I maybe missed in the chat that you really want me to answer? Paulette's wondering, what genre is that? Folk? I would say it sounds more Celtic to me, especially with like those grace notes. And I believe Carol, if I'm not mistaken, is more of a Celtic harpist. So I think her music is more in line with that. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I think that's more of like a Celtic feel. Oh, Eventide. Oh my gosh. Kathy, you're right. Why was I calling it Eventide? I don't know why I said it that way. That makes a lot more sense. Thank you. Eventide. That sounds a lot better. So that one is Eventide. And so that's not a learning the harp arrangement. That is that was written by another harpist named Kappus. So I'm not sure exactly where to find the sheet music. To be honest, I don't remember where I got this one, but I found it online somewhere, I'm sure. So I'm sure she might have a website you can go on to find it, or just Google the song title and her name. Okay, let's see. Yeah, are there any other questions that I might have missed from earlier on? If not, I can maybe do another song and then I think we can call it a day from there. Let me scroll up and see what other songs people are recommending. Oh, Charlotte was wondering, do you or others memorize music? These days, I do not. Unless I we're playing at an event where it wouldn't be appropriate to like have my music there, but that I usually am just playing background music for places. I honestly don't really love like solo performances where it's just me on a stage and everyone's watching. That's not really my thing. I did enough of that in college, so I got the practice doing it, but I enjoy it a lot more where I can kind of just be a fly on the wall and be a part of these events and provide beautiful music. So I do just play from the sheet music, but I know a lot of people do memorize their music. Maybe they don't read sheet music, or they just enjoy that experience of playing by memory more. So either one is fine. There's really not a wrong or right with that. But I think it requires less preparation on my end as well if I just read from my sheet music. Ooh, Annette said Vie En Rose. That's a good one. I think I'm going to do that. And yes, Denise. So all of these are listed in the description of this video, like right below. And they have like all the composers and arrangers as well. Okay, yeah, let's do Vie En Rose. I think that would be a good one. This is actually one I just recently added to my song list. And yeah, I think it's one that just sounds really classy. It's a bit jazzy. Just a nice one to include. And we don't have a Learning the Harp arrangement of this, but I would love it if y'all voted for this one. I'm playing from a different version arranged by a different harpist, but I think it'd be really nice as Learning the Harp arrangement, just saying. Okay. That one's fun to play. Yeah, Connie says so nostalgic. I agree. Also, sorry, I think my upper strings are getting a little out of tune, which by the way, if you are playing background music and a string goes out of tune, it's always okay to just like take a moment to do that. I think I've heard students ask about that before, like, oh, that feels weird to do, but it's really not a big deal to just kind of touch it up. So let me figure out what string that was. I'm trying to figure out. I think it was the D here. So yeah, just taking a quick moment just to touch up the tuning. It's okay to do. Like, don't feel so rushed that you have to move on to the next song if a note is bothering you. Laura, you're so right. The higher register sounds like a music box. I completely agree. Yeah. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, I think we can end our time here. But this was so much fun. Y'all made this a really fun, like, first live stream experience for me. So thanks for hanging out with me this afternoon. Whatever time it is for you in the world, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, like I said, if you do have like any other questions about like playing background music, like please post in the Facebook group or the activity feed on our website. Like we're there to answer your questions and support you. So I'm glad y'all got to join me, and yeah, hope to see you next time and in another Learn the Harp event we have. So have a great rest of your day, and thanks again for being here. Bye, everyone. This was so fun.